Hey guys, I know I posted a couple months ago that I'd be making my own baby food and I wanted to share that process with you. I'm doing this mostly due to budgeting because it can be like $2 for one of those little servings. And then the other part is like it's nice to just know that my baby's food is just purely water and the fruit or vegetable. Very simple. Um, and so I am making a big batch of food right now because me and my husband are about to go on a delayed honeymoon to Las Vegas. And we're going to be gone for 5 days, which is the longest I've ever been apart from either of my children, I believe. um, so I'm making all this baby food to prep for my in-laws and my parents while they watch my kids. So I'm going to take you on the process of making that. Tonight we're making carrots. Someone's excited. We're making carrots and mangoes and prunes. Now I'm going to take you through my process of making the carrots. So I boiled an entire bag of baby carrots for 15 minutes on a low-medium setting. I did 4 for 15 minutes. And then it's soft enough that I could cut it up with my spoon. So I just cut it up into little pieces as best as I could to make it easier on my blender. I am just using a magic bullet. I definitely recommend investing in some sort of blender or food processor that's bigger and better than a magic bullet if you're going to do everything in bulk. Because doing a big batch with a magic bullet is it takes a while because I'm adding little by little. She's hungry, hold on. All right, so like I was saying, I add a little by little, about a spoonful and a half to 2 spoonfuls of chopped up carrots per batch. I put a little bit of water in it and then we go ahead and blend it. Obviously, I've already gotten the majority of my carrots pureed already. And this is the first jar that I've got. This is the consistency that I have right now. And this is my favorite consistency so far. I will say that it takes some playing around at first. The first time I did it, I went too heavy on the water and I made juice. And so I recommend starting with a small batch to test and then, just keep adding to it. It takes a little more time and effort, but I think it's well worth it because look how much food I'm getting for a $3 bag of carrots. It's almost the same price as one of those little tins, but I'm gonna get, like a week's worth of carrots. So I'm gonna blend this up and then I'll show you how I make the mangoes. I've officially pureed all of my carrots, so it's this entire magic pullet and a 4-ounce jar. I got these little jars off of Amazon. They're very useful. They come with all of these little caps, like a regular mason jar. So now we're gonna fill them all up. Let's see how many mason jars we fill with one pureed bag of baby carrots. All right, so I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 jars so far and about this much left. So this is the point where I'm like, do I fill them to the brim even more, these little jars, or do I feed the rest to my daughter right now? And I try to fill them up as much as possible. I'm not sure why, but I just don't like overfilling them too much. But all I ever do is put it in the fridge or the freezer and that's it. So, I am debating, like, I don't think any harm's gonna come from filling at least half of that little glass top. So I think I'm just gonna stuff it and we'll see where we come out with. All right, so I filled up the 5 jars a little past the brim. I usually fill it to the brim, but this time I filled it a little bit past. And I tried to offer some to Ellie, and she just said no. She didn't want any. Yeah, she's still, no. I think she's done eating today. So yeah, now I'm just gonna top these off with the tops, and then I'm gonna throw them all into the freezer since I'm prepping them for a week from now. And honestly, these 5 jars of carrots should be plenty to get my child through the 5 days that I'm in Vegas. But I am making mangoes as well, and I think I might make some prunes to make sure she digests it all very smoothly. And then that should be more than enough. But, you know, we love mixing the fruits and vegetables, making it a little more tasty, a little more interesting, different combos. So she won't be bored. My baby is featuring in all my videos, so my 6-year-old is dying to feature also. Can you say hi?
Hi.
This is my first little princess. She's gonna go play while we make the mangoes. I have my magic bullet rinsed and my mangoes are defrosted, so let me walk you through it. Okay, so I got this giant 5-pound bag of frozen mangoes, mainly because my husband likes to eat them frozen, straight out the freezer. So since I know we're going to be sharing, gotta buy plenty. So all I did was take out like a bowl full of them and I let them defrost. Learning from experience, I put them on these paper towels and just let them dry for a minute, because if you, I learned the hard way because I thought mixing frozen foods would be the most efficient for me. I wouldn't have to worry about my veggies or fruits spoiling before I got to them. But yeah, learn the hard way that once they defrost, of course, there's going to be extra water. So, and added to the water that I used to puree, now we have double water, and that's how I got the juice in the beginning. So let me show you what it looks like. Alright, so here's my mangoes. They honestly feel like fresh fruit right now. And they don't look like they would make juice. They look like they would make a legit puree right now. So I'm just throwing them into my magic bullet. Yeah? Do you like mangoes? Oh, okay. Well, let's put you up front so you can play with Sissy. Alright, this is a much more manageable batch from a magic bullet than the carrots were. And they're also very, very soft. So what I like to do when the food is this consistency, I did it with the carrots too. I like to throw it in the blender with no water and just see how it blends. And that gives me a better idea of how much water to put in. So obviously it's not going to create a full puree first try, and I'm fine with that because I'd rather it come out great in the end. So let's blend it up and see what we get. Wow. Okay, I just blended it. I did not add any water, and like I said, these were very, very soft fruits to begin with because they were frozen and defrosted. I think that really helped. But wow, this is a pretty good puree consistency. I'd say it's just about the same as my carrots. So yeah, I did this with one bout in like less than 30 seconds. I can see there's still at least one big chunk. So I'm gonna give it another pass, but I'm definitely not adding any water to this batch, because if I did, it would get too soupy, at least for my 10-month-old. And I believe it'd be too soupy at any point. I still think that even a 5-6-month-old would be easily able to eat this, but it looks so yummy. Yay. I'm so glad it worked out without much hassle. So I'll give it another whip around, and then I'll see how many jars I can fill with this. I'm gonna predict 1 overfilled, maybe 2, maybe, but most likely 1, which is fine with us. And then we'll move on to the prunes. The mangoes filled up about 1.25 jars. I did choose to not fill this to the very tippy top, and use this for tomorrow for breakfast, lunch, dinner, whatever she ends up needing it for. Yeah, just because it's not worth it. Yeah. But I did want to taste test this because it's literally just frozen mangoes pureed. I feel like it's going to taste a lot better than the Gerber baby food, which I have tasted at a baby shower. The consistency is not for me. I will say that. But it's much better than Gerber. So now we're moving on to the prunes. I went out and got pitted prunes, which are just dried plums. If you don't know this already, these are the magic ingredients to make your baby poop better. So I usually like pairing this with banana, stuff that gets them constipated. It'd probably be really good with chicken. I might be able to boil chicken and puree that before I leave for vacation also. Which means, you know, some of the carrot jars would be staying here with me, which would be great, because then she'd have too much food on the vacation. So I would like to make a protein like chicken for her too. I just checked my phone for the time for the first time since I started this, and I've been at this for about 3 hours now. And I'm feeling it. I'm exhausted. So I don't think I'm gonna soak the prunes extra long, and I'll leave that experiment for another day. They've soaked for about 5 to 10 minutes. So we're just gonna put them in the blender now, and they usually come out great no matter what. It was purely for my curiosity. We're gonna start first, like I said, with adding no water to it, just the water that's on it from soaking, and let's see what we get. That was extremely loud. Should probably add water. Don't recommend pureeing these at night with no water because might wake up the babies, so we're gonna add water for sure. Alright, so I feel with my previous batches with prunes that this takes a little more water than I'd put in the other ones. So I put the water to about here, and we'll see if that helps make it faster. So this is the consistency we get with about this much water added to it. The fun thing about making your own baby foods is obviously with the partially filled mango jar that making an exact proportion and having exact science and everything, can't really do it. So it's frustrating sometimes for people who like to follow recipes, but I also think that it's also simple in its own way too. I got very intimidated thinking about making my own baby food. I thought, I couldn't commit to it just because I know myself, but I feel a lot better about it now, and I honestly wouldn't change anything, and I am still hesitant to buy baby food in the store because it is so simple to do, and the prices of baby food unfortunately have not changed. So I think if anything, I just have to break out of my laziness, purely what it is, and just make some more baby food. All right, so the consistency we got from that batch is obviously very, very chunky. This would not be good for baby. So we are gonna add more water, see how much. Okay, I did a amount, as you heard. I'd say a pretty good amount, maybe like a tablespoon. And I still don't think it's going to be enough, but like I said, we add little by little, because if we add too much, we might ruin the whole batch, and then that's the rest of my prunes all gone. So little by little. All right, let's see. All right, so I can already tell it's not the consistency that I want yet, just like I predicted. Prunes are very sticky. So I get very worried. Prunes are not something that I personally want to play around with. This isn't proven or anything, but I personally don't feel comfortable with having my prunes anything but close to juiced. So still very, very chunky. So we're gonna add some more water. I had to push the limits a little more because this is way more prunes than I've ever made. I only make a couple at a time. And like I said, I made the last like little bit of the can. So now we've got the water up to here. Let's see, hopefully that'll be enough. All right, that amount of water went way better. That was way easier. Now I can tell that it's pretty good. This is the consistency we got with that. It was way easier adding a little more water than I was comfortable with. So that's what it looks like. You can't tell from the video. It looks very, very glossy in the light. And I think once it looks glossy, I think it's way better. Yeah, so like I said, it's a little bit thicker than I would like it to be. But I usually mix this with the other foods. So if I mixed it with like the mangoes, it would make probably the perfect consistency because the mangoes, you know, they're not runny, but they're a little more runny than the carrots. So yeah, I think I might leave the prunes at this consistency and not add any more water. But I'm gonna give it another blend and see how comfortable I am with that. You can see that glossy consistency that I was talking about way better on the cap. So yeah, it's definitely thick. If I were feeding this without mixing it with other foods, I would add more water. I think I might add more water, just a tiny, tiny bit, just because I might feed it without anything else. Yeah, so let's add a little more water and let's see what we come out with next time, because I think if we add a little more water, it's gonna be perfect. Added a little bit, about that much, very, very little bit, because I really don't want to ruin it. It's like right there. That's why I'm like so on the line about it. But I think the other thing that's nice about making your own baby food, it's about you know, making what's comfortable for you. So it's nice to be able to adjust it to how old your baby is. I know Gerber has like the crawler and the sitting and all that, like the food grows with the baby. But especially if you're doing like a baby-led feeding or something, it's nice to be able to have that extra control on the consistency and everything. So, you know, as they grow, you could make it more chunky and everything. But previously stated, I have a 10-month-old. We don't have too much experience eating this texture, this consistency that's very, very thick. So I'm personally watering it down just a little bit more. All right, big reveal. I think this is it. It feels right to me. Yeah, that's much better. Like I said, mixed with the other foods that I have, the water will help balance this out even more, and it will mix great. So we have a lot here. Let's see, it's up to here on the cup. And probably should have counted out. I feel like it was like around 15 prunes. But that's just my guess. So, just like the others, we're gonna get out the jars and see how many jars we fill with that much food. I'm done jarring the prunes, and as I was jarring them, I had multiple questions about my choices, like why I chose to wear a white shirt while jarring prunes, or why I chose a baby spoon as my scooper and stirrer. Choices were made. So I recommend thinking of those things before you start. So let's see how many jars we got. We got 1, 2, 3 full jars. And then the fourth one it's actually pretty full, about 3/4. So that's really good. So in total, we have about, yeah, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 9, 11 jars of baby food here, which is plenty to get my baby through vacation. So I met my goal, which is great. If I could do anything differently, I'd probably defrost a couple more mangoes and make more mangoes. Just for variety's sake. I know it sounds awful letting my child have only a couple of few foods throughout the week, but personally I get stressed out thinking about this, and I think it's a lot easier to just simplify it, and she's a baby, she really doesn't care. And like I said, you can mix it up. They can make mango carrot. They can mix in cereal with anything. They can put prunes in with anything. My baby loves prunes, so it's got an added benefit to the helping her poop. And so yeah, to end it all, I think I would highly recommend that any mom who's willing, or on a budget, looking for ways to save a penny while they have a baby, I definitely recommend making your own baby food. It's really not that difficult. And if you have any more questions about what I specifically did, that I might have left out that you were curious about, you can drop a question in the comments. I'll be happy to help. And let me know if you want another video like this on the chicken. Yeah, because I feel like the chicken's going to be a whole nother thing. And that's my cue. See you guys.